So in our example, we are going to have architectural drawings and also structural drawings, and we are going to do the takeoff, and we are going to do both the architectural takeoff and also the structural takeoff. Now, before we go to that, we need to understand the various measurement tools. So I'll proceed to tools, and then we have the measurements. The first tool here that you get currently shown as calibrate. In other versions, it's we have set scale. They have the same function of setting up the scale or calibrating the scale. We are going to look at that. However, let us look at the length. Let's start with the length. Again, it has the shortcut there. You can probably decide to be using the shortcut, which of course will be saving your time. So for the length, I can just click on the length, and again the length, you note that it is within the toolbar, so you can decide to access it from this point or else proceed to the tools menu. So the length measures the distance between 2 points, so I can click at that point and then click at that particular point, and you can see once I do the second click, it is going to show the distance between the 2 points. Now I'm just going to press escape and then click to select this particular uh, length that I have already added, and we are going to look at the options bar here, where you can change the color of the line. We have this line, you can change it if you wish. You can also change the opacity of this particular line, and also you can change the type of line. So probably if you want the line to be dashed, you can do so. So we can have solid for now, and then you can as well change the line weight. So currently at 1, probably if you want it to be a little bit thicker, you can have probably 2 there, and I can click to have that uh, to have the line width that I have set, and then you can change. So let's have 1 here. We can as well change the line, the start of the line. So remember, we have the start. So currently we have this kind of a start. You want that is the start that we are going to get, the arrow there. Again, we have the end. So here we have the end, and then the end can have a fill color. You can proceed and click at this particular point to change the fill color. Remember, this is because of the type of end that I've chosen. So for example, I choose this kind of an end. We will not have an option um, to change the fill color or else to set the fill color. Again, we have the unit. This is very important. So you set the unit. For example, currently it is shown in meters. So you can decide to change the unit, and we are going to look at that later. But for now, you can change the unit from this particular point. And then there is the caption. You can decide to show the caption, and the caption is actually the information, the label here. For example, the foundation walling, and also you can decide even to show the length or else not show it. If, for example, I click at this show caption, you can see that there is no text that is going to be shown. So you can click to show the caption, and else you can decide to choose what should be shown. For example, if you want to show, if you don't want the label shown, you can check this particular label or uncheck. If you want it to be shown, you can check to have it shown. Again, the length, if you want the length to be shown or not to be shown, you can use this particular option here. And then you have other kind of measurements you can do with this particular line. For example, the depth, you can measure the depth. So that is the depth. The area, so the area here is actually produced from the depth. So for example, this particular length, which of course is this point, from this point to this point is 3.4, and then you add a depth of 2 meters. So the depth here is like the height. So the wall area, that is called the wall area, or the surface area, is actually 6.8. So that is set from this point. You can decide to have the area there, and it will be shown in the unit that you define. The depth, you can even decide to add a slope. So the line, this particular length that we have added, can produce other related dimension or measurements. For example, at the length, okay, we can have the length and also the wall area or the surface area. You can decide what to be shown, or you can choose what to be shown, or the caption. So you can decide to have the labels shown or not. For example, the depth and the wall area, probably we don't want that shown, therefore we can uncheck. Okay, we can check or uncheck to define what should be shown. The slope, because you have not added any slope under the unit, so that's why you can see that it have been grayed out. Now it is important that I stress this. Yes, we have added this particular measurement as a length, but under the unit you can produce an area by adding a depth. So this depth is actually typed, it is not measured, you type it. For example, if I say the depth, which of course is similar to the height, is 2, the length that is going to be produced can as well produce the area, which is the product of the length here. For example, this is 3.4, and then the depth, which is 2. Remember, the depth here is like the height. If you have the slope here, it will also be used to produce the final area. So that is it. And then you have the font. Remember, there are these captions. You can decide to choose the font size. Probably you can have 3, so that is the font size. And you can as well change to the font size that you wish. You can change probably the font color, and then the style of the font. You can have the font bold, you can have the font underlined if you wish. I'll click at this point. Okay, I hover the cursor over that point, and you have seen we have these extra options. For example, the totals there is shown, this length, yeah, and of course there are other totals that have been attached. For example, the length is that, the area, the volume, the depth, and the wall area. Remember, here we said the wall area is like the surface area, and it is the one that is actually produced here. So that is it, and it is important that we note that. Now let me proceed, and okay, let me select it once again, and then we proceed to the setting, the properties. Very important. Now within the properties, you can add a subject to this particular length that we have added. You can add a subject, you can add a label. For example, the label here is foundation walling, and then you can add some information there. So that is it. And then you can as well proceed and change the appearance. Of course, everything that we are going to find okay, most of the things that we are going to find under the properties, we have already found them at this particular point, so, or at the options bar. So you can you have those options still at the properties. This is the properties panel. You have those particular options. You can change them from this point. You can, for example, change the color. You can change the color of the line, the fill color, and of course this is the fill color depending on the kind of pointers that you have, or the stats. Here they are called stats. And then you have the opacity. You can change the opacity of the line. You have the line there, you can change it. The line width, you can as well change it. We found that here. The style, the start, the end, the show caption, and then remember we came across the show caption. You can choose, you can click on edit to check what can be edited or what should be shown as caption. If you don't want captions, you don't need to check. Okay, you can just uncheck it. Yeah, and then under that, so you can choose the font text, the font type, the font size, the text color, the font style. So we have that. And then you have the options here. You can add to tool chest. We are going to look at tool chest, and then you can set it as default. Now setting selected tool as a default, for example this length, if you set it as a default, it means that those settings that you've done are going to be the default settings. For example, if I click at default setting and I proceed and click at this particular length to start play or to add another length, click to place it and probably place it at that particular point, you note that they are very similar, including the line properties, the size of the text. So you can decide to use set as default to have the settings that you have done as the default settings once you want to add a similar tool in this particular drawing. So those are the settings that we expect for this particular tool, and that of course will follow for the other tools. That's why we have spent some time to understand this particular length, which forms the basis for the other tools that we are going to look at.